Welcome back. Now, campaigners are calling on the government to apologise to women who were forced to give up their babies for adoption in the decades following the Second World War. The movement for an adoption apology gathered in Westminster today to demand accountability and action from the Prime Minister. A new short film called The Removed highlights this issue, which affected around 200,000 women from the late 1940s to the 1970s. Let's take a look.
Been waiting for you to find what you lost.
I don't understand. This is mine.
I know. It'll always be yours. It doesn't matter where I am now. I will always be yours.
An adopted son meeting his birth mother there. Well, I'm joined now by the director of that short film, Rose Karen Constantine, from the Movement for an Adoption Apologies. Ladies, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Big swell of support out in Westminster today. Karen, why did you want to take on this issue for your short film? What moved you to action, if you like?
Yeah. So I'd been reading lots about forced adoption over the last few years, and I'm a mother.
Rebecca, sorry.
Rebecca, no,
sorry.
It's fine, Karen, it's all good, don't worry. And I just, you know, I like to give, shine a light on things that haven't been told and stories that haven't been told. And so I felt compelled to write a story that explores forced adoption, which was The Removed. And then I connected to this incredible lady here, Karen, who is on the MAR committee, the MAA, and amongst lots of other ladies as well. So we've become great friends. But I just feel that this story needs to be told, and you guys need justice.
We need greater awareness. I mean, Karen, you have some personal experience of this. This nearly happened to you.
Yeah.
When you were 15. This was back in 1978. I mean, we said this was happening between the 1940s and 70s, and when we were speaking in the break, you said, actually, this is happening up until the 80s.
Yeah.
This is recent history, which is just so shocking to hear. Perhaps you can give us an idea of what it was like for you when you were 15.
It's very simple, really. It was a very shameful thing to be young, unwed, and pregnant. And when that happened, there was a well-trod path and a network of institutions that would grab you with their sticky claws and quickly squirrel you away and put you into
church, hospitals, schools,
state, doctors, priests. There was a network, and they would send you away, you know, to cover up the shame and the embarrassment for the family, send you away. But what I found out when I was doing the research for this is that was something that people paid. It was a privilege that people paid for. So when I went away into a mother and baby home, my parents had to pay, and it was actually more than they could afford. And that was the case in all of these mother and baby homes. It was a monetised process. And then when the babies were eventually produced, they were found adoptive parents, and donations were expected. So this was quite a commercial operation. And we're fairly confident that actually 500,000 women went through this process.
Yeah, because we're saying about 200,000, but presumably, Rebecca, as you've discovered through your work with this film, the stigma attached to it is such that many families will have never spoken about this.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. I've spoken to so many people who have shared their stories with me and have never shared the stories before to anyone, which a huge privilege for me to speak to people who would be so open and trust within me. But as Karen says, I think that number, the 215, it's a very low estimate. I mean, it's huge, and it very much did go on into the 1980s, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know.
And we've been calling on government to do the research. We think research should be undertaken so that people can know the true picture, you know, because it wasn't 215,000. There was many, many more women that went through that process.
Do you feel it's still being swept under the carpet? I mean, the organisation that you're part of, Movement for an Adoption Apology, I was surprised to find out that an apology has been issued by Northern Ireland, Scottish and Welsh authorities, as well as authorities in Canada, on Australia, where this was also common practice. But the UK government is still yet to do so.
Yes.
Why?
It's hard to understand why, because it would be a relatively simple thing to issue an apology to the women.
And why is it so important to those
Well,
women?
the JCHR, the Joint Committee on Human Rights, was convened by Labour ministers. It concluded in 2022 that an apology and reparation should be given, so additional help and support. That hasn't been implemented. And one of the findings of that commission was that these women, now a very aging cohort, are dying, and they're taking that shame, that sense of shame, that burden, to their graves with them. You know, I mean, only a few nights ago I had somebody contact me who's in her late 70s, who was in a mother and baby home in the early 60s, still hasn't had that reunion, still hasn't been able to trace that child that was taken from her. And there's a common misconception that women were giving away their babies. They weren't.
Because they were young and vulnerable and couldn't
They were
cope with
given
all of
no
those
options.
stereotypes about young mothers.
Yeah.
Rebecca, a final thought. I mean, the UK government has apologised, saying given a response, saying sorry on behalf of society for what happened, but it was not appropriate for a formal government apology to be given since the state did not actively support these practices. Rebecca, a final thought from you, because obviously this has happened in Westminster today, your movement, you're demanding an apology, your film is out now. What do you want to happen from this point in?
Yeah, and it's just also a huge shout out to the adult adoptee movement and Zara Phillips today, who organised the protest. But I just think for likes of many women that we both know, that this apology needs to happen, because like Karen says, there are many women now and fathers as well who I've spoken to, they're dying. They're at an age where they need that justice and apology to move on, you know?
And perhaps to trace those children, and for those children to be given the opportunity to trace their parents as well, because so many of them may not know. Listen, it's an issue that's not talked about enough. Thank you so much for bringing it into our studio tonight. Rebecca Rose there, film director of The Removed, and Karen Constantine as well from Movement for an Adoption Apology. Ladies, thank you so much.